Welcome to the Let's Talk Data podcast series presented by SAP, where we explore game-changing technology and strategies with leading experts with the goal of maximizing the value of data across your organization. If you haven't done so already, please follow or subscribe to our podcast on your favorite channel to stay tuned in.
Welcome, everyone, to our SAP Let's Talk Data podcast, Can Your Data Be Trusted? My name is Autumn Moss from the Global Product and Solution Marketing team here at SAP, and joining me is my colleague, Huth-Ziegler.
Hi, welcome. Let me start by introducing the data doc himself, Dr. Thomas C. Redman. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. For those who may not know Tom, he is known by many as the data doc. He is the president of Data Quality Solutions. His company helps people and businesses realize the enormous opportunity their data offers and teaches them how to set up their organizations to become data-driven. Tom, can you please give us some insight on what drove you to write your article, originally published in the Harvard Business Review, titled, Can Your Data Be Trusted?
Well, first of all, thank you, Kim and Autumn, for having me, and thanks to SAP, too. And so I talk to a lot of managers in my job. So mostly I spend my time as a consultant and an advisor. And I ask a lot of managers, well, is your data up to snuff? Was it good enough to make that particular decision? Is it good enough to make the decisions you make every day? And I find that most managers, in the back of their mind, they have real questions about the data. I mean, after all, who hasn't heard of garbage in, garbage out? And if I get them talking, right, everybody will come up with an incident where things didn't go well. But still, data quality is in the back of their mind. And the first thing I really wanted to do was help them move it from their back of the mind to the front of their mind. So this business, can your data be trusted? I am trying to use this set of data to make this important business decision. Do I have a reasonably complete and accurate picture of what's going on so that I can make the best decision I possibly can? And so that was the main intent. I mean, secondarily, I tried to provide some tools to help managers, do better, figure out whether they can trust their data, not just go on gut, but have some hard facts to guide their thinking there.
Thank you. That is a great explanation for the background on this article. And I actually think that's a great lead into our very first question. Why is data so important in business today? If you can help define that for us, we can further understand what is good data and what is bad data.
So, yeah, that's a great question. I mean, first of all, I think it's trite to observe that nothing happens in any business today, practically anywhere in the world, without data. And I suppose the hottest topic right now is AI, particularly generative AI, as companies are struggling to figure out how to use that and put it to work. But I mean, like, even at that level, these things don't work. AI just doesn't work without high quality data. And maybe doesn't work is the wrong way of thinking about it. The computer doesn't care. But bad data in means bad data out. And of course, AI can't tell you that the bad data in and bad out. So it's really even worse than just not helpful. It's downright dangerous. And look, AI is tough. There's without high quality data, you're not going anywhere. And there's a bunch of good books on this topic. One of my favorites was written by a woman named Cathy O'Neill several years ago, called Weapons of Math Destruction, which somehow lost. The fact of the matter is, most people in most organizations today are simply not worried about AI, generative or not. They're trying to do their job. Maybe they're conducting operations. Maybe they're calling on potential customers. Maybe they're sending them their stuff. Maybe they're trying to figure out how much stuff to order so that when people want to buy things, they have it in stock. And so, just the day in and day out business operations, the garden variety decision making that people have to go through every day. So all that depends on data. And here is where the largest fraction of opportunity lies. I think it is fair to say that the dependency on data is growing. Now, to your question about what constitutes, good and bad data, I like to think of it in terms of fitness for use. And so, it's anything you can think of fit for use. I want to make a decision. I need this data. Is it fit for use in this decision? And we may use the same set of data in another decision or in an operation or for planning. And it's perfectly possible that fitness for use will mean different things in different applications. I find that fitness for use almost always includes something around relevancy. Is this stuff relevant to the task, the decision, whatever at hand? And it almost always also includes, some form of accuracy. Is this accurate enough to make the decision, conduct the operation? Now, there may be plenty other sort of dimensions, other concerns in fitness for use. But I find this is a good, handy, simple definition to carry around with you.
And I think you hit on something very important in one of the very first things that you said was that businesses are using data every single day, but people in our day-to-day lives, we're also using data. And how can we trust that data is good or bad, even in a personal sense, beyond what businesses are doing, right?
I think that is a really good point. I noticed during COVID, people are remarkably tolerant of bad data. But I noticed during COVID, it's sort of like the ante got upped. And a question like, well, when are they going to have toilet paper? Or when are these kids going to be able to go back to school? Or, when is this website going to work so that I can, get my unemployment benefits? Or, right, the questions that the impact of bad data, especially during COVID, was so much more personal and so much more immediate. And people became a lot less tolerant of bad data, I found, at least personally, during COVID. And I'm hopeful, and I see some examples of it, but people take that intolerance of bad data from their personal life into their work and figure out ways to be a little less tolerant of the junk that they have to work with and fix up every day just so they can do their job.
Right.
Well, and too, on a personal level with data, there's so many things that data helps for regular people, whether it's just making informed decisions, finding results, ultimately maybe even improving people's lives. But from a business standpoint, data helps solve many problems, whether, and monitor performance, improve processes, solves different problems. Tom, can you give us an example of when, data was not trusted and how that may negatively affected a business or a business decision?
So let me give a couple of examples. One at an extremely high end that I don't think has gotten the attention it deserves. But, I'm sure you are aware that every 10 years in the United States, on years that end in zero, a census is conducted. There's a bunch of rules around who gets counted and so forth. But one of the uses of that census is allocating, or apportionment is a better word, apportioning number of seats in the House of Representatives to the various states. And so this is a big deal. I mean, lots and lots of federal money gets based on the number of people that are counted in your state, and lots and lots of impact in the legislative branch based on the number of representatives you have. But my work and some stuff I did with Roger Hurl, something depended on some of the census's own estimates of their error rate suggested as many as 6 states did not get the number of representatives they should have. 3 got one too few, 3 got one too many.
Wow.
So, this is a big deal. The second example you mentioned, and we're talking about personal. I mean, it just is so personal about. But the second example I'd like to go over is where bad data led to mistrust in a company. And, it just happens to be some person I know, and they're trying to complete a project. And quite literally, they needed a can of blue spray paint. And so they went on the website of one of the big box stores, and there were 2 or 3 in the area, and they found out that one of these stores had this blue spray paint that they wanted. And so this person figured, well, I'll go to the store. Maybe there's some other stuff I need. I'll look around and so forth. It was about a 20-minute drive. And they got to the store, and there was no blue paint, right? No blue paint on the shelf, right? And so they asked the salesperson, said, what happened? The website said you had blue paint. And the salesperson said, well, that's never right. You should have done something different. And so, I hear in your laughter, everybody knows what happens after that, right? This individual is never going to trust this company again. And in effect, the decision that was made was, the decision to drive to the store. But in the course of time, it's, an hour and a half lost and pretty darn frustrating an hour and a half that could have been used more predictably or more profitably. Frankly, I find that everybody, when they think about this, they can come up with a dozen stories, just in the last 2 or 3 weeks in their personal life.
You just hit on it, that this is not only a modern day business problem, but it is extending into our personal lives. So where does that responsibility lie for bad data? Is there someone out there, a person that is cleansing and cleaning up data for business and personal use? Or is it now becoming an individual problem that uses that data for finding where the problem actually lies?
Right. So look, this is a really important question, and let's unpack it slowly. I think the practical reality is that in most cases today, the person using the data assumes responsibility for the quality of that data. And so, like we started this with a discussion of decision makers, right? In the article, we talked about a one-time decision that needed to be made and trying to amass a bunch of data and check whether it's correct. It was a new use. And so probably it's okay that the decision maker and their team is responsible for understanding the quality of data. By the way, it's not just cleaning it up. Some data can't be cleaned up, and sort of, isolating data that can't be trusted, figuring out which data that can, and then, there's some that should be isolated, some that should be trusted implicitly, and some in the middle that you can use with caution or you can clean up. But look, that's not the normal situation. And I just want to start with an example. I find, people in sales are remarkably tolerant of bad data. And so a typical salesperson depends on leads data that they get from the marketing department. And it's a little bit of a metaphor, but not that much. But they come in the morning and they're tasked with making a bunch of calls and so forth. Maybe they even have metrics around that. And they look at the data, and it's not fit for use. It's not good enough to go make a call. And so what do? They clean up that data. So, a lot of them spend half of their day cleaning up the data so they can go make the call. And then, of course, when they make a sale, they're no better at entering data and providing data for the operations person. And so the operation person has to clean it up. And in effect, what we have is we have this sequence of things where everybody is cleaning up data from the person or team right in front of them, or maybe two or three steps in front of them, but they're cleaning up data from that they need every day. And they do this every day, day in and day out. And I hope you are going in your mind, oh my goodness, how ridiculous is this? Am I doing this too? Right. And so, but the secret to sort of getting the roles and responsibilities is right is, first of all, recognizing that this is just dumb. This is no way to run an organization. This is no way to be a salesperson. And there's many ways of expressing what you're going to do about it. But I like thinking about it this way. That salesperson, that operations person, that person in marketing, they're every day in two roles. They're both a data creator, creating stuff that the next person or team in line is going to use. And they're also a data customer of stuff from people upstream of them, right? And they're blithely going about this work completely unconnected. And so the key is it's time to become a good customer and a good creator. And what do you do when you're a good customer of anything? Well, you think through what you want. You figure out how to communicate it to the person providing what you need. In this case, the data creator. You put some metrics in place and figure out, well, I had these 10 requirements. Looks like we're meeting 7 of them pretty good, 3 of them not so well, and 1 of them really bad. Let's work together and figure out how we're going to, improve the process that's sending me such bad stuff. Okay. And any person in any company can take that step. The fact of the matter, though, is we need to do this at scale. And so we need to do it across entire companies, right? We need everybody signed up for this thing. And that's where senior leadership simply has to come in, right? To make those simple roles that we talked about, make them the norm across the organization. The fact of the matter, by the way, is almost everybody loves these roles. And they love them because it's so much better than coming in and cleaning up a lot of junk. It's way better to think about doing your job. It's way better to think about making, the next person in line more effective than it is to clean up stuff from people upstream of you. And so the data quality task for senior leaders is to build the organization structure, communicate these roles, build the organization structure such that they become the norm across, if you're a team leader, your team, if you're a department leader, across your department, if you're a company leader, across your entire company.
Well, it seems like it is a tremendous waste of time in the example that you have given us, that it's the next person that is looking for discrepancies from the previous person. And in your example of a salesperson that could be out there generating sales, creating new workflows for them or their team, that they're spending so much of their time looking backwards saying, is this even correct? Can we even proceed with these leads, with these options in front of us?
So look, I think you said it exactly right. The typical job today consists of 2 parts. It's doing your job and dealing with mundane data issues so you can do your job. And
yes.
and by the way, I say it in ways that I hope people go, yeah, that's really dumb, right? It is really dumb, because the opportunity to make it so that let's say you're spending 50% of your time on both these tasks. Well, in 3 months' time, it's realistic. You can be spending 75% of your time doing your job and 25% of your time on mundane tasks. And so maybe you can get to 90-10. And the productivity gains when you get to do this, it's almost like doubling the size of your sales force.
Absolutely. And I think, Tom, Kim, you both are spot on, with the sales perspective. Me coming from sales, always dealt with that too, incorrect data, whether it was company data, contact data, lead information. So I used to always try to make sure that I left, whether it's a contact record, a lead record, and make sure that data was a little bit better than I found it. So Tom, here we are 8 years later after you originally published this article, and it's clear that the problem of bad data persists and may in fact grow into a deeper, bigger problem. So what steps can we as business professionals take today as we begin to resolve these discrepancies?
Well, so first of all, I think you described it right. Two things have changed in the last 8 years. One is data is way more important, and the trend is it will become increasingly important. And the second is a bunch of organizations have really showed the way. And so, this conversation we just had, it's not simply, us spitballing on what it will take. These ideas work and they work in practice, and most people and most companies enjoy doing it. But I really like the way you posed the problem, because, you posed it not as we're data professionals, but we're business professionals. And that's an important distinction. So if you're, waiting around for, somebody in technology to solve this problem for you, or somebody, some architect to redesign the technology such that the problem goes away, you're going to be waiting a long time. And I just want to reiterate, anybody at any level can do the things that we just talked about. And in lots of companies they have. These people are so important. We give them the name provocateurs, right? Because they've changed the direction their company is on with respect to data quality. And while their motivation was simply improving their performance or their team's performance or whatever, they also showed, hey, this is the way this works in this company. But also, look, I think the bottom-up work, there's plenty of bottom-up work that's being done. There's an expression that goes, all change is bottom-up, all change is top-down, and it really reflects that early on, we depend on an individual initiative. But after a while, things are going to change across an organization. Senior leaders have to drive things forward. And from my standpoint, there's been plenty of terrific bottom-up work, and it's time for senior leaders to see the opportunity for themselves and their companies in this.
Absolutely. Definitely agree. And I think this is a conversation that could go on and on and on, as challenges continue to happen, as trends continue to happen, and, as data just increases as a whole. Wow,
Can I
Tom.
make one more comment here?
Absolutely.
I don't want anybody to improve data quality for data's sake. I want them to improve data quality because it makes their operations work better. I want them to improve data quality because it increases sales, because it enables them to make better decisions,
Yes.
because it makes their chances of success with AI better, right? None of what we've talked about here should be interpreted as data quality for data quality's sake. There is a deep and intimate tie between business performance and data quality. And this should be driven by the business performance.
Well, that's it. To make things better moving forward, we need to recognize that bad data exists, but we can make this change, and let's not do it for the data. The data is simply data. Let's make the data better for use, to simplify, to speed up, to offer business professionals the correct information and make the best of themselves and their jobs and their performance. And I think that it's so important in this article that you have brought to light that we just can't trust it. Always go into reading your data with a healthy amount of skepticism, and know where, be able to have the opportunity to recognize that this may not be accurate. I think more on the personal side, what you choose to do with it is your business, but on the business side, we have to get better.
Yes. Just to sort of put a capstone on this, I mean, you shake a tree and 22 consultants or articles come out and they extol people to become data driven, to use data more. But the simple reality is the data shouldn't be trusted now. And I don't think anybody should be telling people to use data they don't trust to do anything. That strikes me as, I don't know, maybe it's a little short of malpractice, or maybe it's even worse than malpractice. I'm not sure.
Possibly. I think that's it's a very interesting way to kind of think about that. Goodness, like I said, we could continue this conversation for some time. I think that this is a great topic. And Tom, as always, it's always a pleasure talking with you and getting your insight on data in general. And of course, thank you to everybody too for joining and listening to our SAP Data Podcast. Tom, I know that we have a upcoming book release from you soon. Do you want to talk a little bit about your upcoming book?
Well, thank you very much for that. Yes, this book is called People and Data, and it really stems from the observation that, first of all, that you can't do anything in the data space without people. You can't improve quality without people stepping into roles as customers and creators and so forth. And I mean, just anything in the data space, go through and look at the work and who needs to do it. And that's one reason, but sort of even more important than this is one of the greatest thing in my career has seen how people empower themselves with data. They get the data where they can trust it, and they start thinking of new ways to do it. It's just so empowering to them, and you see them in March and what they're doing, and then you see them in July, and it's like, Tom, we changed the way we're doing stuff, and we're not ever going back. This is just so much better. The only example I've really been able to come up with for the empowerment is, when a child is about 5 or 6 or 7, something in that age, they learn to ride a bike, okay, and they can't ride the bike. They can't ride the bike. Mom and dad are behind them, encouraging them and stuff. They can't ride the bike, and then all of a sudden they can. And when they do that, these kids, I mean, they're intolerable for a few days, right? It's, oh, look what I can do, and it's, oh, Dad, look, I can only hold on with one hand, and right? It is such, and it's so empowering, and I don't know if at the back of their mind it goes, oh, I can go to my friend's house, I can do this or that, but the best part of my career has seen how I don't, in my day-to-day job, teach 6-year-olds to ride bikes, but I do teach them about how to organize for and use data, and the empowerment, seeing the empowerment is just the best thing ever.
I actually got goosebumps right now when you were talking about riding the bike, and then just that moment of just, like you said, empowerment and freedom and just opportunity. I think that is super, super exciting, and we look forward to the release, and super excited that it's coming up soon. Also, we are going to be having another discussion here very, very soon with Tom, discussing an article that he had previously written about bad data is sapping your team's productivity. So we look forward to that as well, Tom. To our listeners, I encourage you to take a look at the additional resources available within the description. And also, please subscribe to the series to stay tuned for new episodes and get caught up on ones that you might have missed. Tom, again, thank you so much. Kim, you too, thank you. And to everyone else, thanks again, and be well.
Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Check out the show notes for additional links to information. And please subscribe or follow to join us on the next episode of Let's Talk Data presented by SAP.